Where is my hair gone? I look bald.
I look greasy.
I always look bald.
I was going to...
I need my hair to grow. I actually do look bald. I hate these lights.
They're too bright.
Do you think this is going to be the thing at the beginning?
I hope not, because I'm greasy. Hello and welcome back to another episode of CDMPTV. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Maxie.
And today we're going to be talking and exploring representations of femininity in media products. So we've actually just had International Women's Day.
We have.
So that's quite fitting.
Girl boss, girl power. Got girls presenting.
Slay. So in media products, females can be represented in a lot of different ways. We've got countertypical, stereotypical, progressive, problematic. And I have forgot to say we've got three camera operators with us today, which I forgot.
I feel like it's just kind of tradition that
you have to forget.
Yeah. I've got Spider-Man on the floor. Awesome. I'm not starting with that this week, don't worry.
I've lost where I'm at. Yes, so we can have alternate readings of females, like Stuart Hall's reception theory.
Mm-hmm.
So should we start by exploring them in films?
Yes.
Do you want
I
to
think we should begin with Die Another Day, James Bond, where Jinx is coming out of the water. And obviously it goes to the male gaze theory from Laura Mulvey that the audience views media products through the eyes of a heterosexual male, and in this movie, this scene, he is literally looking at it through binoculars, so it is literally like through the lens of a heterosexual male. Heterosexual, there we go. It's like, I don't know, females just always objectified, like she's coming out of the water in slow motion, she's in a bikini, like
they're always passive and secondary as well. It's like,
and it's usually never really relevant. They're just kind of there for the sake of it.
Like they're normally just like a prize to be won by the hypermasculine male.
Yeah, and then he just starts dropping game on her like it's just nothing, and just like keeps making advances and moves, and I don't know. It's just a bit like unnecessary, because did she have to be coming out of water? No. Was it really relevant? No.
Did she have to be coming out of water?
She didn't. It's just kind of there because it's like
for the mainstream male audience.
Yeah, and obviously most of the audience would be male, and that's kind of the target audience. So, and kind of like, you know, sex sells, it's appealing to that target audience. So yeah.
Yes. Well, we can move on to Black Widow / Natasha Romanoff. So we're first introduced to this character in Iron Man 2, and she was heavily over-sexualised. Even Scarlett Johansson, the actress who plays her, actually agreed with this in an interview. So she's kind of like a love interest for Tony Stark, if you will. I hate saying that, it's gross. First. But again, it's an action genre, so it's going to be mainstream male audience, so it's the male gaze yet again. But could also be quite damaging for mainstream female fans because, you know, you're seeing this woman just be passive and objectified, and we don't like that.
No, we don't.
But as the movies went on, she kind of developed from a side character, and then she eventually had a solo movie, so kind of broke the stigma around the stereotype, which was quite good.
Sometimes, and obviously it's not good, but stereotypes are used for like shorthand, quick identification, says Andy Medhurst. And so it's kind of easy because people know that these movies sell and they do well, and that's just kind of a shortcut to it. And sometimes it's kind of a risk to do like unconventional stereotypes because, I don't know, anything can be seen as problematic. There's of course different readings, but...
Yeah, and then obviously females could have personal identity with the characters, which could go one way or the other. It depends how they're represented. Do you want to do another example?
I don't know what we can move on to.
I do have other examples for films.
Go ahead, please.
So, I've never actually watched The Hunger Games. Just thought I'd put that out there, but I did my research, and Katniss Everdeen is stereotypically, like, counter-stereotypically, because she's not the Propian princess, she's the Propian hero, I guess. She's strong, fast, athletic, which are all masculine traits. And also she's always the main focus on film posters.
Yeah.
If you look at the film posters, she's always front and centre, so...
She is. But again...
Girl boss.
Again, it can be argued that some of her costumes are... They're not as revealing, but she's still quite sexualised. Yeah. And I think it just goes again that there's quite a lot of binary opposites between male and the female roles.
Yeah.
Like,
and then she is sexualised a bit more as she gets older.
Yeah. Like they're kind of the focus of the sexual fantasies, and men are like the projectors, and they're there to like support the men and to be weak, and they need someone to depend on, who's usually the man, but she's kind of girl bossing.
She is. And I actually have another example of a counter-typical female. So we have Ruby Roundhouse from Jumanji. So Ruby Roundhouse is like character like in the game, and she actually comments on what she's wearing. She's like, why am I wearing this? I've got the quote somewhere. She says, why am I wearing this outfit in a jungle? Tiny little shorts and a leather halter top. I mean, what is this? So she's literally picking up on the sexualisation, which I think was really clever. But it could be a risk because it's like they've acknowledged it, and it's like, oh.
They've acknowledged it, but they're still doing it.
They're still doing it, yes.
Because it works. And they're like just there to be sexualised most of the time.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Should we move on to a different type of media product?
We should. Would you like to go with magazines, perhaps?
Yes, let's move on to magazines.
So, front cover pages of magazines, specifically women's magazines, are just quite disgusting.
Yeah, I'd say there's two types of women in magazines though. So you have like the really over-sexualised, everyone, you have to look like me to be amazing. And then you have like the celebrities who are normally like girl boss with like proper like powerful stance.
Yeah.
So you can kind of go one of two ways.
Mm-hmm. But I'd say majority, they're being sexualised. And it's like, usually the front cover, it's like big writing of like, and it's all just topics about sex and like how to improve this, how you can do that, how you can change yourself. And often
so unnecessary.
And they're just so overly edited, and it's so unrealistic. And I know Lily Reinhart, she was on the front page of Cosmopolitan, and it got released and she was photoshopped and she didn't even know it. So she posted the unphotoshopped version, and obviously kicked off, as she right well should. And it's just so unrealistic, and it's so harmful for the audience.
And sometimes like you think that they look okay until you like read it. So there's one with Taylor Swift on the front, and it says like girl boss in massive letters, and she's like stood very much like like masculine, if you will, but then if you read the sub like categories down the side, they're about sex, and it's like, seriously, why can't we just have a normal magazine?
I know, and it's usually all about like how you can change yourself.
Yes.
And all these things that you need to be doing differently, like they're very targeting, whereas like front cover of men's magazines is kind of like completely opposite, you know, like they're just, and it's like, obviously it's promoting like unrealistic body standards.
Like in Beachbody Ready, that's a very good example of one. It's promoting some sort of like weight loss supplements.
It's like protein powder or something.
Yeah, and it's basically saying like, take these instead of your meals and you will look like the woman on the front who is in a, is she in a yellow bikini?
Yeah.
She's in a yellow bikini.
It's like, you need to be Beachbody Ready. If you don't look like her, you are not Beachbody Ready. You need to change yourself.
On the screen.
She
there
is.
She is.
Hello,
oh,
Beachbody girl.
Oh, well, I'm not Beachbody Ready.
Communicates that like a woman's only value in society is based on her physical appearance.
Yeah, it can be very damaging for like a female struggler audience who's already kind of struggling with their appearance, and then to see that, and I think the Beachbody Ready one was like on the tube in London.
It was on the tube in London, and I think obviously it got a lot of complaints because
you're just on your way to work and it's like
you're just being body shamed at like 7:30 on the morning. That's not really what we want.
You're just going to have an awful day.
Yeah, and it's like when things like this are promoted, it kind of makes you think that like, why don't I look like that? And then it kind of can start off a lot of self-objectification, like, if I'm not wearing this, if I don't look like that, I don't have any worth.
Yeah.
And I saw this thing that like, you know, when you're getting ready on a morning and sometimes you feel like you're getting ready for someone, that is the male gaze. Like, I need to have this, I need to look like this, I can't wear that because I need to look like her. It's the male gaze.
And I think it's always interesting, especially with like magazines and adverts and stuff, because like normally the preferred reading from the person who's brought out the advert or magazine themselves is like, oh yay, everyone, let's just have our product and it'll all be great. And then obviously it does not go like that, because most of the time the dominant reading is, what the heck?
Yeah.
To sum it up.
It's ridiculous, and it's just so unrealistic, and everything around us is constantly mediated. Like, everything is there for a reason, and they kind of capitalise off of people feeling this way. They don't want to stop it, because big companies, they gain everything from it, from like insecurities of women.
Like they don't care if you're crying on your way to work because you've seen that poster. They just want the money.
I know. They're like, oh cool, we've just made her feel horrible about herself, but she's gonna buy our protein powder. So we're winning realistically.
And on the subject of that advert, I think it's quite interesting to look back at old adverts because they're absolutely awful. So there's one that I found, and let me just see. It says, "Don't worry, darling, you didn't burn the beer."
Who's laughing? I'm scanning the room right now. Everyone's got blank faces because it isn't it funny. Of course, the only man in the room's laughing. Typical.
So obviously that's like very much like women belong in the kitchen stereotype, and the guy on the poster is in a suit, so he's been working all day and he expects to come home and have his wife cook for him, and yeah, it's again very much male gaze.
They're very just passive,
just
kind of there, and it kind of reminds me of in Six Underground, where I couldn't tell you who they're all named after, but the most important, like, the doctors, the people that are literally performing like a life-saving surgery in the back of the car, are in the back of the car, not being talked to.
And what they're wearing as well.
There's just very oversimplified stereotypes, like women in the back, really important, literally probably arguably more important than everyone else in there, but she's in the back being ignored, not being talked to. And it's like, okay. Cool.
Honestly, it's ridiculous at this point.
It is.
But yeah, another advert. This one was actually banned, the Volkswagen advert. In the last scene, it had a woman sitting on a bench next to a pram, and apparently it was like harmful gender stereotypes, because the men in the video, in the advert even, were like doing like adventurous activities, and then it cuts to a woman and she's just sat on the bench with a pram. Yeah, but then at the same time, some could argue that it could just be a stereotype shorthand, Andy Medhurst, because we clearly tell that she's a female, obviously, and a mother because she sat there with a baby in a pram.
Yeah, it's recognisable. It's what everyone kind of knows, but
which shouldn't be right.
It shouldn't be. It's not right at all. And that advert reminds me of something that was released because it was over International Women's Week. And it was like they advertised a car that was made only for men, and then it says, oh, it didn't have this, it doesn't have this, and it also doesn't have this, and it was all parts that were made by women. And then everyone's like, wow, that was so smart and such good advertising. But like, you're kind of capitalising off like a time that's meant to celebrate women, and it's like,
yeah,
it's like during Pride Month when all the companies kind of change their logos to like rainbows, like they don't care. They just kind of want your money type of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just like, oh, we support this, so you're going to want to buy our products.
It's like, we're doing this, so buy from us because we're supportive.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
What's behind us? Is it Keira Knightley? Sorry, that was really off topic. But speaking of, so she had a PSA for domestic violence that got banned. I can hear Mr. Rose laughing. Have I done something bad? Okay. So she did an anti-domestic violence campaign, and it got banned by, I'm assuming, ASA, which is a regulation which controls adverts. But it was kind of just like, I don't know, because I personally thought it like sent a really good message, and it showed like the reality, and it's kind of set on a like on a movie set, and then they like stop filming, but it's still going on. And I don't know, it's just, there's a lot of like rape culture in media that and a lot of shock tactics that are used, and kind of that's how you get the message across in like these PSAs. And I think it got banned, but it's real. Like, this is what people go through.
Yeah.
And I think it was just so sad, and it sent such an important message. And even all the comments on like the re-uploaded version were like agreeing with it, and it's still sad, but it's something that we need to be aware of.
And I think on the topic of PSAs, we also have Binge Girl, which is anti-binge drinking campaign, and it's interesting to say the least.
Yes.
Because I think like when they brought it out, they weren't trying to sexualise the female, I guess, but it very much came across like that, which then obviously took away everything from what the video was actually trying to promote, because people were more focused on how the women was presented rather than what the message of not binge drinking was.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the intended reading was like girls binge read too. I mean binge read, binge drink too. You know, because they kind of hit both target audiences there with the two separate videos, but it was kind of more like interpreted as like, if you drink, because it starts off like she's ripping her clothes, and you know the whole thing's like, you wouldn't start off our night like this, why end it like that? But she's like a lipstick smudge, her clothes are all ripped, and it's just like, obviously to do with rape culture again, it's like boys will go out all big and strong, they'll get in fights and stuff, but you girls don't drink because something's going to happen to you on your night out, and it's going to be your fault, and it's just full of victim blaming. So they were kind of going for, oh, don't binge drink, but it was kind of like, oh, don't get raped because it's your fault.
I think like very much the dominant reading was the oppositional reading in this case, which is very risky. So yes, it's just like even in a PSA that's literally about not drinking, they still managed to sexualise the female because it's the male gaze is just everywhere. It's too strong.
And it's all unnecessary. It's like most of it doesn't need to happen, but it does because it works and it just appeals to so many people, to men mostly.
Yeah. And I know a joke Mr. Rose wanted me to get in is that Laura Mulvey would be rolling in her grave if she saw these and if she was dead.
But I think we can also mention, as well as the male gaze, is the female gaze. Which,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, obviously, things are like constructed for like all viewers, for like both females and males, and like, oh, this will apply to a female audience, like men with all their tops off and stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know, I feel like obviously it's very both like controversial and like wrong. Like, you shouldn't need to sexualize people to like get viewers, get your point across
and stuff.
Yeah. Like, it just shouldn't happen, but it does because it works, and that's what everyone's used to.
And that's what's annoying is that it works.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we mentioned poor Ryan Reynolds in these episodes? I'm looking at you, Sol, and I'm looking at you, Daisy and Amy. Shocking. And Mr. Rose.
Yeah. Should we look at music videos?
We absolutely
Music
should.
videos is a very interesting one because obviously I guess women in terms of the music industry, their videos are often very like countertypical because obviously they're not going to sexualize themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's normally very much like showing their like power in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it could appeal to reformer audience because it's like promoting change in the way that gender is represented. But women who appear in the background of a hypermasculine male's music video, they're normally just the sex object or passive or just the background dancer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Blurred lines. It's the most disgusting thing in the whole entire world. They're just kind of like, the whole song's basically just like, I know you want it, like, okay.
Yeah.
Really? And they're all just kind of like stood there dancing around the men in practically nothing, in like skin-coloured things. And it's like...
I feel like it raps as well. I swear every single rap is just, look at my gold chains, look at my women.
Yeah.
That's just what every single rap is.
And like Safe to Say by H, I think it was Mr. Devon who showed us this, in one of his lessons maybe, last year. I miss you, Mr. Devon, please come back.
Don't know who that is.
But he was like, it kind of is, oh, look at all this cash, look at my private jet.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he like rolls over and there's a girl in his bed, so it's kind of like she's the prize, you know. That's what you need to get in life, and you'll be fine.
Money and women.
Money and a wife who will not burn your beer, as that advert said.
Yes. How do you even burn beer?
Representation was just like, you don't burn beer because of representation. That's what I think, is women can't do anything. So funny. Don't laugh, Sol.
Anyway. Although there is some, obviously, the counter-typical stereotypes in the music videos. We have got Beautiful Trauma by Pink, but this is an interesting one because I think it was meant to be counter-typical. It was like, obviously, Channing Tatum in it he's in a dress, I'm pretty sure, and he's doing the housework, and then Pink is like in a business suit, so it's like they've completely swapped the roles in the relationship. And then like at the end of the video, she's wearing the eye mask that says Mr. and he's wearing the one that says Mrs. Although it did get a bit of backlash because some oppositional readings were that you kind of have to like swap the roles in the relationship, like in the marriage, in order for it to like work. So I think the preferred reading and idea was there, but
just...
And then there was like a really random scene in it as well with like women dressed, they had like, I swear they had like whips and chains, and they were
the
in
end
like
scene?
like near that, like right near the end, yeah. And it was going so well. It was like, oh look us, we've swapped the roles. Here's sexualised women again, because apparently we can't go without it. So that was, yeah.
that definitely happened, and it's I don't know, like in movies, like women have these characteristics of like being, hang on, I'm sorry, I'm moving on. Do you want to say anything else on music videos?
I was going to mention one more.
Please go ahead. I was going off on one.
You were off again, I'm back on movies. I was just going to say that another example of just like, I guess like a counter-typical girl boss music video is Look What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift. She's in a red dress, sat on a gold throne, and it's like, I'm powerful, I'm wealthy, everyone look at me.
Like, she was proper, like, she was girl bossing.
She was. It was a very much slay, and although she did have which was cool as well, she had like a very stoic expression for most of it, which was like a masculine trait in films.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of symbolism
Definitely.
and semiotics in that, which was really cool. Like even just the colour red of what she was wearing.
Yeah, and sitting on a throne with all the snakes. Like, power to you, girl.
The snakes, yeah.
I think this might, I don't know, I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, so I'm really sorry if I've upset anyone. But I think this might have been a few years after, probably. But the whole, obviously, Kanye and Taylor thing, where she's trying to make a speech and then Kanye comes up and like ruins it for her.
Yes,
and like just completely interrupts
that
her.
video. Because isn't that one where he's like Beyonce should have won or something?
He's like someone else should have won, and just like...
Yeah, again, the male has the power. Because
Like,
he thinks he's so entitled, because he's hyper-masculine, and he thinks that his muscles make him some big person.
Yep.
Like,
and look where Kanye is now. All of his controversies. And look where Taylor Swift is now. So...
slaying.
She is slaying with all of her like newly recorded
She's
albums.
about to go on tour, I believe.
I'm not a Swiftie, but like, slay.
What were you going to say before? I feel like you were going to move back to...
Anyway, sorry, I keep going on tangents. I'd like to apologise, but at least I'm not talking about Spider-Man.
That was directed.
Not to be aimed at anyone.
Really awkward silence.
But, so women are often, obviously, apart from being sexualised, they kind of have these like motherly traits about them of like being overly sensitive, supportive. They have to have kind of like a lot of empathy, affection, like tenderness. They're very emotional, kind and helpful, and like very understanding. Like these are all like very feminine traits to have.
Yeah.
And I think in I Am Legend.
The counting how many times we've said slay. Sorry.
I Am Legend. Obviously, I forgot his name. I feel like his name is Robert Neville, but he picks up a lot of these feminine traits. Obviously, with his losing his child and his wife, and he is shown.
He shows a lot of emotion.
Yeah, he shows a lot of this emotion, which can like be seen as counter-typical representation of masculinity, but like hyper masculinity. He's just such a kind and sweet soul, and sometimes I feel like that could possibly be an example of the female gaze. Like I feel like women audiences tend to like see like softer males represented and be like, yes, we need more of that, and I think we do. We should all have a bit more Robert Neville in us.
That feels like a very motivational. Like I'm going to tell myself that every morning.
Girl power. Girl
Slay.
power.
Slay.
But yeah, I feel like that was a bit of a tangent, sorry, but anyway.
Yes.
Yeah?
I think that I have covered everything that I had to say.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
think I have as well, really. Unless we're going to be subtly told to say something. Bond. Just randomly thought of that, actually. Don't know, just like popped into my mind. Bond. If you give me a few seconds, I might just randomly think of something to say about the Bond films.
If you tell us, because I've never watched them.
Just give me a minute to think.
That's the very much like prize to be won, isn't it? Like the female's the prize to be won.
Mm-hmm.
The woman, we talked about the woman coming out the water with the binoculars. I think that's what it was.
We did?
Yeah.
That's why I was a little bit confused.
We mentioned that.
And she is sexualised with a knife. And if I just randomly somehow think of something else, ever so randomly. No, I don't think I did.
I think we should say bye before we just say
I think we should, before I just start. Anyway, I would like to thank my floor manager for our floor manager.
For counting how many times we said Slayer.
Yes, and for giving me the bond.
Giving me the bond?
Giving me the bond, what's it called? I think we should just end here because I'm losing my mind ever so slightly. Anyway, power to the women.
Slayer.
Let's stop objectifying females. Did you know that there is a complete but underrepresentation of women actually in media roles? You, woman watching, study media, become part of the change that needs to happen. Woman power, girl boss moment. We need more women in media. Come join us. I'm going to study TV production next year. Is this an
advert?
Yes. I think we need more women. Actually, I'm saying that, and I think Sol's the only woman.